They didn't start. Oh.
So Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph, Dine Mamanas Machzir. If they made a mistake, or if there's more testimony, even though they said he was Zakai, they can change it and say Chayiv. And even though they said Chayiv, they can change it to say Zoich. Rimin, I'll show you a steer from another source. Dana Sadin, the judge ruled, Zicha Sachayiv, by mistake, he made innocent the guy who was Chayiv. Or he made Chayiv the Zakai. Or the discussion was something Tomei or Tohor. And Timei is a Tor. He said that which was Tor is Tomei. Or vice versa. Tier is a Tomei. Masha Asa Osui. There's no machzi. If all of a sudden we figure out there's a mistake because we have other evidence, this price says we don't go back and change the verdict. Masha Asa Osui. The din stands, but Yishalami Beso. The person that he harmed financially, the judge has to pay from his pocket. But we're not machzir the din. We leave it the way it is. Amar Rav Yosef loy kasha. That which we said kan, that we said we are machzir, that's b'mumche. If you have an expert dayan. And we're not machzir kan b'she'ena mumche. So the Gemara doesn't understand who the mumche machzirin. Vaktani. Am I a mumche lebezdin potem l'shalim? Not only do we not choizer, the din stands and he doesn't have to pay. We're not machzir, he's potem l'shalim. So how do you for the steer in these two sources? Rav Nachman, kan sheish gadol menu b'chochma v'minyan. So if there's a greater judge b'chochma v'minyan than this one, the Talmidim can reverse the din. But when we're not machzir, kan she'en gadol menu b'chochma, he's the greatest shoyfeit, and he's the expert. And if he made a mistake, we can't fix it. Rav Sheshes Samar, he explains the different way. Kan, when do we choizer the din? Shetah b'dvar mishnah. If there was an open mishnah and the dai made a mistake in an open mishnah, the din is nullified. But kan shetah b'shikul adas. Shikul adas, we're going to see, is he made a decision based on his logic. Most poskim won't go that way, but he has it sad to paskin that way. That's called shikul adas. There, we don't go back on the din. Dom Rav Shesam Ravasi. Toa b'dvar mishnah. If a dayan made a mistake in an open mishnah, everyone knows it's a mistake. Hoizer. So then the din goes back. Toa b'shikul adas, which the Gemara will explain. Ein a choizer, then it doesn't go back. Ravashi. So when we say Torah b'dvar Mishnah, afilu Torah Rabchiv Rabbi Shia, they were the ones who organized the Baraisos. All the Tanya and Ton Rabbanon, those are all Rav Chi and Rabbi Shia. They were the last of the Tanoim and the first of the Amoraim. So is that included? Or really in? So afilu Rabu Shmuel, it means Rav and Shmuel made psak, and he made a mistake. Is that also like a Mishnah? Or in? Yes. Afilu b'didi v'didcha. What about you and me? We're talking about Rav Sheshes Ravasi. How about us? If they made a mistake in how we paskin? Are we just thorns? We also have standing. So, hechi domi shikul adas. The Gemara is going to explain to us what does it mean that a dayan made a mistake b'shikul adas. Amrav Papa, you go and trade tanoi, trade amiroi. They play together. You have machloikes Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Kiva, or Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda. We have that throughout Shas. Or two amiroi, Rav and Shmuel, Abai and Rav, that argue. And v'lo itmer hilchas lo kamar v'lo kamar. Now, many of our sugyas, the Gemara ends up by saying hilchasa like one of them. But in many of our sugyas, there's no psak, at least in the Gemara. Eventually, the Rishonim paskin. They developed a rule whenever we have a machlokes Rav and Shmuel, we paskin like Rav. Whenever we have a machlokes Abai and Rava, they paskin. That came later. But in the Gemara, they didn't paskin, not like this, not like this. And the judge heard the case. And he paskin like one of the Amoyim. But if you polled most of the Dayonim, the precedent is the paskin like the other side. So that's a mistake. Meshikul Adas. Eisver Avnul Rav Sheshes. Ma'aser b'parshal beis Menachem shenitla ha'em shelo. There was a cow. The uterus was removed. And we know in Chulin there's Yudches Treifus. There's 18 types of injuries an animal sustains that makes him a treif, where he can't live 12 months. So there was this female cow that was missing its uterus. He thought it might be treif based on that. So he fed it to the dogs. Because you can feed, like kelev tashlichun oso. The case come in front of Yavne. They said, no, it's kosher. Shomar Tudus Arofet, Tudus, the doctor, said, that in Egypt, the cows and the pigs were so prized that they never let these animals leave the borders of Egypt without taking out their uterus, because they didn't want neighboring countries to produce the same quality animal. And it's clear that these animals lived a long time. And therefore it's mashma that taking out the uterus doesn't threaten the life of the animal. It's not a treifa. On Rav Tarfon alocha chamorcha tarfon means Rav Tarfon realized he made a mistake, and he's going to have to sell one of his donkeys to pay for the cow that he said was treif. But Amar Rav Akiva Poterata, Shekol Mumche L'Rabim, an expert that the public has declared an expert Poter Milashalim, doesn't have to pay. Now, if it's correct, like we've tried to say, that if you're Torbid Var Mishnah, you're Poter, Leimalei, why did he have to say Kol Mumche L'Rabim? He should have said Torbid Var Mishnah, Atav Torbid Var Mishnah Choiser. Just reverse the din. So Rabbi Kiva really chadavoid kamar. He was saying two things. Chada torbid var mishnata. You're a torbid var mishnah. The torbid var mishnah choizer. You can reverse the din and say that the para is kosher. Va'odi nami b'shikol adas tois. There was a machloikes tanoim, and you went with one tzad. You're a mumche l'rabim atavach. A mumche l'rabim poter milashalim if he made a mistake. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak l'Rava. My kamusiv, Rav Amnuna Rav Sheshes, the part. What was this kasha that Rav Amnuna was asking Rav Sheshes with this case of par? Parech, a little klavim, less a tatad. I mean, they already fed the par to klavim. What do you mean reverse the din? There was no shaila anymore if it was choizer or not. So hachi kamerle. Iyamrit bishlam atobid var mishneh choizer. If you're going to tell me that if you make a mistake in the Mishnah, you still don't go back, al mokam dina. So the din would stay the way it was. And hainu to come mafchid Rav Tarfon. That's why Rav Tarfon was afraid he'd have to sell his chamor to pay for the damages. But kamer le'iyu, but Rabbi Kiva stepped in and said, Mumche lebeistin atavata poter milashalim. You're an expert, so you won't have to pay. But if you made a mistake in the Mishnah, it just goes back the din. Even if the para was around, you didn't do a problem. You didn't do a problem either. You don't have to pay anything. Rav Chizda Omar, a different teretz into the steer between the two Mishnahs. Kan shenotal the nosan biyad. If the dayan took money from one guy's hand and gave it to the other guy's hand, and it was improper, so it doesn't go back. But kan shalonatov nosan biyad. He made a psak halacha, but he didn't hand money over. Then it could be choizer adin. Okay, that's what Rav Chisda says. Bish l'machayev zakai. So I understand that improperly he made the innocent guy pay. So then I understand not tov v'nosan biyad. He took money from one, that innocent guy gave it to the other guy. But how does it work? Ella zika sachayv echem ishkachas lo. How does it work to say that the guy who was chayiv to pay, he got off free? There's no notol v'nosan biyad. So the Gemara says, "The Amar lei poter atam milashalei." You don't have to pay. But v'halo notol v'nosan biyad. But that's not moving it from hand to hand. So the Gemara answers, "Kivan the Amar poter atam k'moshe notol v'nosan biyad dami." By just declaring your poter to pay, it's as if he took money from one guy and gave it to the other. Elamas Nisan, our Mishnah that said Dine Mominus Machzirin Bein L'Schus Bein L'Choiva, that a mistake is made or more evidence comes in by a monetary case. You can reverse the case whether to good or bad. So Bishmet L'Schus, I understand L'Schus Mishkachas Law, D'Armelo Mi Karachayvata. Initially, he told Reuven, you're chayiv. And v'lo natal v'nosim biyad. But he didn't take money from one to the other. But elo l'choiv echem ishkachas lo. But the opposite way, how does it work? Because the Amar lei poterata, he told the other party, you don't have to pay. But v'amrit given the Amar lei poterata, k'moshe natal v'nosim biyad dami. And once it's natal v'nosim biyad, you can't be machzir. So chodek tani, we have to learn the Mishnah in only one way, and not two different ways. How does that work? Dine mominus machzirin l'schus. Shehi choiva. That means we return money, which is a benefit from one side, which is a choiva to the other side. But the kavosa gabe the nefasha is only machzirin l'schus. If the guy was guilty, we can now say he's innocent. But if he's innocent, you can't later on say he's guilty. And machzirin l'schus means zuchus greatesa. He doesn't. There's no penalty to the other side. Vein machzirin l'choiva, so means af l'schus shehi choiva. So what do you mean? Choiva se demand by a capital crime. Whose choiva are we talking about? Haloi kasher choiva se shel gol adam. So if a murder was committed, and let's say the murderer gets off, but there's relatives, and he wants to punish the murderer. So what do you mean? Mishum choiva se the gol adam kaplina le'lai. Because we're worried about the gol adam, we kill this guy, even though there's no reason to kill him. But what do you mean Bain? Because we said Bain l'schus, Bain l'choiva. It comes out, it's only one way, not Bain. Kasha. The Gemara blights with the kasha. Ravina Omar, we can be miyashiv Rav Chisda kagon sha'ayalo biyodo mashkoin. The guy who's making the claim that he's owed money has a mashkoin. When he said that the guy who owes money is potter, but not lemimenu, he took the mashkon back, and the dayan did that. So that's like nosiv and nosim biyad. Or timei sator, he actually took a sheret and touched something that was torn. Dagi be sherets. So he did it the dayan. Now tir satame, how are you mitar the tamei? She irvon ben perosa. You took one of your cows, which was tamei. You took some of your fruit, which was tamei. You mixed them with a lot of the fruit that were torn, and then it's a bottle, and you were able to make everything torn. Then we say din and nefashos. You only switch the din if you go from guilty to innocent. You can never go from innocent to guilty. Once he's innocent, that's it. From where do we know that if Bezdin declared that he's chai, and someone piped up and said, I have a reason to say he's innocent. So we bring him right back to din. Because it says, V'naki v'tzadik al tarog. V'naki al tarog. If there's a tzad to say that he was innocent, then we don't kill him. How do we know that if a guy is innocent, comes out of Bezdin innocent, but someone says, but I have evidence that he was guilty. Somebody who came out at tzaddik in his din, even though he's not naki, we don't kill him. And we don't take him back. But somebody who is inciting someone to do an aveira is the opposite. You can't have pity on maces. Rav Kahana Masni, Ki Sarog Targenu, by Macy's, double language. Boimini Rav Zim Rav Sheshes. Chayvi Golius Minayin. That when Beis Din says somebody has to go into exile, it's the same like when Beis Din is Chayv Misa. That means if he's innocent, he's innocent. If he's Chayv, you can switch it to innocent. But if you're innocent, you cannot send him to Golos anymore. Asya Rotzech Rotzeach. We learn a Hekesh from Rotzech B'Mezid and a Rotzech B'Shkoga. What about Chayv Malkios, that you can make him innocent? Asya Rasha. It says by Rotzech Rasha, it says by Malchus. Tanya Nami Hachi. Chayv Gulius Minayin. Asya Rotzech. Chayv Malchus Minayin. Asya Rasha. Then Machzir L'Choyva. If Beis Din declared him innocent, that's it. You cannot make him guilty, even though there's more proof. When V'hu Shetah, that's if the judge made a mistake. B'dover she'enat tzdukim moedim bo. Something that only the Prushim agreed to, that the Tzdukim do not agree. Something that's Torah Shabbat Peddin. It's not written directly in the Torah. It's gotten B'Kabbalah or Masoiras. And the Tzdukim didn't accept that. If the judge made a mistake in something that's written in the Torah that even the Tzdukim would agree to, then Zil Kori Bei Ravhu. Then you are Machzir the Din. And you go, even if he came out innocent, you can make him guilty. And that's the halacha. That the tzduki moedibo ein zoyro klal. It's like there's no psak at all, and you go back and you rejudge him. The most famous case we'll see is coming up. Boimner of Chibarava ben Rav Yechnan, to benoy v'noyefes. He thought by an adulterer and adulteress that only the male is killed. Mau. Is that a reason to go back? Until the fire is burning.
Cut your gourds.
What was that?
It says cut, while your fire is burning, cut your gourds and roast them. What does it mean?
And this is something that even the tzdukim will be moide, that you don't just kill the male, you kill the male and the female. And this would be a case that you'd go back on. If you made a mistake like that, you do choizer. Elahechi Domi, what's an example that ain't Chosrim Bo? And that a Dayoni made halacha and we keep him innocent. Or Rav Yochanan Kagon Shatah, El Shatah Shalo Kedarka. So the din is whether you have vaginal penetration or anal penetration, it's the same din. So if they made a mistake and they said, oh, this was only anal penetration, they say you're innocent, then he remains innocent. That was learned only midivrei sofrim. That's the Kabbalah learned. The tzdukim would not be moed to that. It's only something that's written in the Torah that tzdukim would be moed to, that if they made a mistake, then you go back. So in that case, you don't go back. Then it says dine mominus. Everyone hakol brings items that would lead to his innocence and to the fact that he might be guilty. But b'din nefashos, only certain people are melamed choiva, not everybody. So hakol afilu ha'edim. When you say melamed schus, what about the edim who saw Reuven kill Shimon? Name him asnisin krav yosef Rav Yudi v'lo Rabbana. What is this? The Tanya. The aid echad lo yaneh b'nefesh l'mus. You can't rely on one aid to kill somebody. Bein l'schus, bein l'choiva. And the aid cannot interfere in the adjudication of the case. He can get involved if it gets the guy off, not if he makes him guilty. So on Rav Papa be'echa talmidim v'divrei hakol. Our Mishnah is talking about talmidim that are in the Beis Din, not the Eidim. And that everybody agrees the guy can intervene. Okay. So we caught up tonight. We did a